It is my privilege, on behalf of the Secretary General, directors and staff of the Secretariat of the International Hydrographic Organization, to welcome you to Monaco for this very special World Hydrography Day celebration. For it was exactly 100 years ago today, at the invitation of Prince Albert I of Monaco, great-great-grandfather of the current Prince, His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, that the International Hydrographic Bureau was formally established here. This live event in Monaco is being broadcast across the IHO Zoom, and at how things have changed in 100 years. Earlier today, we were honoured with the presence of His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, Ingénieur Général Laurent Kelliger, and Ambassador Peter Thompson, many distinguished guests, and two industry partners, IXBlue and ICA, showcasing state-of-the-art survey systems. Under the banner of 100 years of international cooperation in hydrography, we looked back at the origins of the organization, highlighted the present challenges, and looked forward to what may lie ahead as the organization steps into its second century. Hydrography is broader than simply measuring and mapping water depths. It is a discipline which delivers foundation information for all physical aspects of the oceans. Hydrography is a global discipline of applied engineering science, and thus it demands global coordination and cooperation for the true benefits to be harnessed to realize the timeless objectives of the safety of navigation and protection of the marine environment. So, to expand on these themes, I'm fortunate to be joined by 5 guests from across the hydrographic world, all with their own particular slant on hydrography, as they come with National Hydrographic Service, technical equipment, consumer-orientated, ocean science, and intergovernmental perspectives. But first, to set the scene and provide some context for the discussions and videos to follow, we will screen the IHO centenary video.
The early 20th century highlighted the importance of international cooperation and ocean mapping. This led to the creation of the International Hydrographic Bureau in Monaco in 1921 upon the invitation of Prince Albert I. Now known as the International Hydrographic Organization, in 2021 it has 94 member states. The IHO's work has evolved in parallel to changes in technology and member state needs. Early surveys were carried out using lead lines and sextants. With the introduction of GPS in the 1980s, global positioning made a quantum leap in accuracy, which in turn led to increasing accuracy in maps. In parallel, the IHO assisted in the development of hydroacoustic survey methods. The 1990s saw the introduction of forward-looking sonars, multi-beam echo sounders, and the first digital maps. The IHO Transfer Standard for Digital Hydrographic Data, S57, in 1992 was a key stepping stone for the widespread use of digital data and computers in navigation. This resulted in the first mobile computerized navigation devices, the Electronic Chart Display and Information Systems, ECDIS. Thanks to globally harmonized data for electronic navigation charts, ENCs, these are now used by all ships on international voyages.
With over 17,000 electronic navigation charts across the globe and the standardized international paper chart series, these are the most successful governmental standards for marine geoinformation.
More recently, the introduction of autonomous vehicles and drones are facilitating surveys in remote or potentially dangerous areas. They can collect data for large areas quicker than a single ship and at higher resolution, especially in the ocean depths beyond the range of surface systems. Today, hydrographic data is used in many areas: fisheries and aquaculture, marine renewable energy projects, as well as baseline data to monitor the impacts of climate change. The IHO has evolved over the years and provides a forum for member states and international organizations to come together and address important issues. One of the most significant collaborative programs is the General Bathymetric Chart of the Ocean, GEBCO, a joint program of the IHO and the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, IOC. Launched in 1903 by Prince Albert I of Monaco, it is still widely used, and together with the Nippon Foundation GEBCO Seabed 2030 project, it aims to provide a complete picture of the seafloor. Already, we have progressed from having a map of 6% of the oceans in 2017 to 21% in 2021. With the IHO Capacity Building Programme, which has assisted in education and training within member states, citizen science initiatives and more, the history of the IHO is a story of successful international cooperation in hydrography, and it will continue this important work in the future.
This session will be a mix of celebratory video messages from some of our main partner organisations with comments and discussions from our guests, to each of whom I will be addressing a question related to their background with the hope that this will spark additional comment. In addition, we will be monitoring the chat to extract some of the most pertinent audience questions to pose to our guests. So please send in your questions indicating your name and location and to whom it should be addressed. Hopefully, we will stimulate a lively conversation. So to introduce our guests, and this is in no particular order, fascinated by cylinder seals from the Near East and visiting prehistoric archaeological sites, no doubt born from a time living in Lebanon, where her father was posted as a Canadian diplomat, Dr. Genevieve Bichard was educated as a microbiologist with a PhD in environmental microbiology. She started her career in research and development applied to mining. Genevieve has held progressively more senior executive positions within the Government of Canada in science departments, at the Canada Centre for Remote Sensing, at the Geological Survey of Canada, and the Meteorological Service of Canada. So it was a natural progression for her to be appointed Hydrographer of Canada and Director General of the Canadian Hydrographic Service with Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and thus complete the set of related departments. Active within the International Hydrographic Organization, she is chair of the International Hydrographic Organizations Council, co-chair of the United States-Canada Hydrographic Commission, and a member of the Arctic Regional Commission. Bjorn Jalving qualified as an engineering cybernetics. He initially worked on the Norwegian defense projects, particularly AUVs with Kongsberg Maritime, Statoil, and the Royal Norwegian Navy. Bjorn developed the control and mission management system for the Hugin AUV. He has continued to be involved in the AUV system design and innovation application of the technology for seabed mapping, naval mine hunting, and marine research, becoming Vice President of Kongsberg Marine AUV Department. He was also involved in an acquisition of Hydroid and thus the Remus family of AUVs. He's been engaged with the IHO IOC GEBCO program for a number of years, including technical and equipment support to the successful JEBCO alumni Shell Ocean Discovery X Prize team, and more recently as a member of the Nippon Foundation JEBCO Seabed 2030 Project Strategic Advisory Group. One of the world's lucky people, or so you would have you believe. As Chief Executive for 27 years of the Marine Institute of Ireland's National Agency for Marine Research and Development, he expanded the organisation from a staff of 1 to over 200. Peter Heffernan oversaw the delivery of both the Celtic Voyager and the Celtic Explorer, custom-built purpose ocean research vessels, and the design and construction of the Institute's headquarters in near Galway. He was a driving figure in the integrated mapping for sustainable development of Ireland's Marine Resource Programme, INFOMAR, as a joint venture between the Marine Institute and the Geological Survey of Ireland, a programme that will see Ireland as the first coastal state to have completed a comprehensive open access digital map of its entire seafloor territories, a far-sighted approach for which Ireland is held up as an example for all to follow. He was the Irish EU Presidency Ambassador for the creation of the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance and the signing of the Galway Statement on Atlantic Ocean Cooperation between Canada, European Union, and the United States of America. Retiring in October 2019, he was appointed by the President as Chairman of Council of the Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies in 2020. However, his legacy lives on with the Irish government approving the National Marine Research and Innovation Strategy for Ireland 2017 to 2021, and the completion of the Marine Institute's own ambitious strategic plan 2018-2022, building ocean knowledge, delivering ocean services, and the announcement that a new replacement for the research vessel Celtic Voyager is included in the National Development Plan and expected to be delivered this year. And finally, our guest who's actually here with me, a national Great Britain swimmer with a distinct advantage over all her competitors in that she had considerably less than the standard 50 meters to cover each length due to her near 2 meter height. Emma Wise is by education a geologist, a profession she followed before changing track, despite having never sailed, to become a marine cartographer at the United Kingdom Hydrographic Office. And as she admits, she had no one to hide behind during her course. Even her male course colleagues were not on her level, so she excelled and gained regular promotions to experience all departments within the UKHO, and as well as the paper to digital transition. After a spell in international accounts, she moved to Singapore as manager for the Asia Pacific region before joining the commercial world, initially as Chartworld's regional sales manager, later sales director and managing director. She returned to Hamburg as a global sales director, and she brings a blend of governmental and a commerce experience. And finally, we will be being joined later by Dr. Matthias Johannes, the Secretary General. So to start, a video message from the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization in London.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to speak to you today and congratulate you on IHO's 100th anniversary. IMO is a younger organization at 73 years old, but we share a long history of cooperation. Cooperation arrangement between IMO and IHO go back nearly 60 years. Most, if not all, of your member governments are also members of IMO. There are clear links between IMO's mission for safe, secure, and sustainable shipping and the IHO's aim to ensure that the world seas, oceans, and navigable waters are surveyed and charted, and the mission to create global environment in which states provide adequate and timely hydrographic data, products, and services, and ensure their widest possible use. Indeed, seafarers' dependence on nautical chart for safety of life at sea goes back many centuries. Both organizations' roles and responsibilities reflect the genuine need for international universal standards and for cooperation in matters relating to the oceans, and safe, secure, environmental friendly, and efficient navigation. Hydrographic data is recognized as crucial in the International Convention on the Safety of Life at Sea, known as SOLAS. Since 2002, contracting governments are required to provide and maintain hydrographic services and products. Our secretariats also attend and contribute to each other's meetings, including the development of IMO, IHO, Worldwide Navigational Warning Services Guidance, the joint IMO, IHO, WMO manual on maritime safety informations, and the development of IMO's mandatory polar code for ships trading both in the Arctic and Antarctic regions. Of course, our collaboration goes beyond the paper nautical chart. IHO played a critical role in the development of electronic navigations, electronic chart and data information system. IHO has also greatly supported our work on the development of e-navigation, the harmonization and the standardization of information focusing on user demand. We must work together to harness the benefits of technology, including digitalization, to ensure the enhancement of safe and sustainable navigation. Digital innovation will be central to the future of shipping. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, hydrography is vital for supporting safe and efficient navigation of ships and thus protection of the precious marine environment. In turn, the whole world relies on shipping for global trade to keep the world economy moving. There is a great synergy between the work of our two organizations. I look forward to extensive and continued cooperation into the future. Happy anniversary, and here is to the next 100 years. Thank you.
So Genevieve, noting the Secretary General's comments about the challenges of e-navigation and maritime autonomous surface shipping, or as it's commonly known, MAS, and recognizing the need for national hydrographic offices to move towards a data-centric approach, what are the main challenges that need to be addressed for hydrographic information and products to support new users, such as MAS, while continuing to service the traditional customers?
Hello, David, and thank you for your question. First, I would like to, do you hear me? Does it sound good? Hello, are you able to hear me? Yes, that's good.
Yes.
I first wanted to thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel and congratulate the IHO for its centenary and 100 years of collaboration. When we're looking at the challenges that are ahead of us, and you've mentioned both serving our traditional users, supporting safe navigation, as well as looking at new types of users, what we're really looking at doing is a digital transformation first, to enable us to deliver data machine to machine, or even as we serve our traditional users. I think where we want to go is have a mariner being able to access the data he or she needs as they're navigating at the time that they need it. And so we're essentially asking hydrographic organizations to do a digital transformation. At the same time, we're asking them to understand new types of users, whether we're looking at fisheries or other types of users that can also use hydrographic information as foundational data. We've started looking at the digital world back in 1992. We saw a reference to the S57, but what we're really asking hydrographic offices to do is to move from static to a dynamic environment. And this is not going to be easy, but I know that we're up to it. We need to be able to put data first, make sure that our data holdings, and this is not a trivial challenge, but make sure that all our data is available electronically through databases that are consistent, that meet the standards that the IHO is currently developing and setting out. One of the other challenges that we have is hydrographic organizations are already quite busy. We're fully committed to delivering on the operations we have now, and we have to make the time to be able to digitalize our data, put it in databases according to the standards that we need. We also need to be able to help our staff adjust and develop the competencies to really understand what the data is about and how it can be used and transformed. The use of hydrographic information for new users means that we won't only be collecting data in the traditional navigation lanes, but it means that we also need to collect data elsewhere along the seafloor that can be used. And this is where some of the new and emerging tools around AUVs and the use of crowdsource data as well can help us collect new types of data. Finally, as we move to this digital transformation, we need to be able, within our own national jurisdictions, ensure that the standards are there and understood as we have third parties that help us collect data, both within our national waters, but also in international waters. So those are just some of the challenges that I see. The other piece is that we can't do it alone. We really need to first collaborate through the IHO, make sure that as the standards get implemented, we can collectively implement them in a consistent way across the globe. But we also need to collaborate with those experts that understand the emerging technologies that we can then apply as we do our digital transformation.
Well, thank you, Genevieve. That's an interesting perspective. And I'm not going to ask Emma because how that fits in with the vision from the other end of the chain, as it were, which is first supporting directly the mariner at sea and providing that data in a commercial world to the mariner at sea. And does that match with your visions and how it's going to dovetail together?
Yes, and again, thank you for having me here today, and I'm pleased that I actually managed to be here in person. It was pure coincidence. Yes, I think it does. We at Chartworld and Seven Seas, for example, we do a lot of work with the IHO and with the standards committees, and many of you know the contributions that we are involved in. But aside from that, the Chartworld group have a large number of developers that are focused on innovation and innovating our products and services for not only our customers, but for the wider maritime community, and trying to find ways to enhance not just the ways in which official data can be displayed, but ways in which additional data that's going to come into the maritime world more with S100 and initiatives like JEBCO and CSB, and to be able to get that data to the mariner in real time in a connected way. And that's really where we're trying to focus our attentions, which I think lines up. But as you say, the key part is maintaining day-to-day business as well as being able to offer these additional innovations. And that's where the challenges come, not only on the hydrographic office front, but also from a commercial perspective in terms of development resources and balancing business.
Thank you. Well, the maritime world has moved from a fully analog information towards a digital presentation. Although the journey is far from over, the work towards fully operational implementation of this new paradigm is nearing realization. So what would this brave new world look like? The Korean Hydrographic and Oceanographic Agency has produced a video which provides a window into this future.
Your Excellencies, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Secretary General Matthias Jonas.
Stop that irritating binging every time someone logs on.
"100 years ago, when the IHO was created, its mission was to help make navigation safer. It promoted uniformity in the thousands of paper charts covering navigable waters across the globe. In the 1980s, the IHO developed a worldwide standard, the INT chart series. This ensured that when mariners navigated around the world, they could easily switch from a chart from one national hydrographic office to the next and understand the colors, symbols, and texts which were standardized. In the 1990s, this concept was extended to digital maps. National hydrographic offices, in collaboration with the shipping industry and technical suppliers, managed this evolution under the coordination of the IHO. In the 2000s, nautical charts and related information, such as radar and automatic information systems, became digitally integrated and were used by all vessels on international voyages. But the IHO did not stop there. In order for marine data gathered from around the world to be used by all ocean stakeholders, the IHO is helping to increase their digital uniformity with the S100 Universal Data Model. This framework provides standards and formats for data from a variety of disciplines. This means data can easily be shared among ocean branches, marine traffic and harbor operations, coastal development, and ocean sciences. It can also be meshed and displayed together, providing a complete picture of what is at sea.
The S100 framework has the potential to bridge hydrography and oceanography in order to build a fully digital marine data ecosystem, the digital twin of the ocean.
Hydrographic technology is becoming smarter. With up-to-date data, ships can calculate the fastest, safest, or most efficient route for a voyage. These technological advances will also pave the way for autonomous shipping. The ocean is crucial for the livelihoods of millions of people around the world. Marine data can be used by coastal states to make informed decisions and can contribute to the sustainable use of the seas.
With the development of hydrographic technology, the use of marine data is increasing. We are expanding from what does the seafloor look like to what is in the water. A concept we could call spatial hydrography.
From nautical charts to all ocean data, the IHO's voyage continues.
So Bjorn, having a plethora of digital products as services with all manner of presentation capability appears to be on the way. However, Surveying remains the basis for the fundamental data to support these products and services. So from an equipment manufacturer perspective, what will be the future key requests for marine data, and how will the carrier and sensor technology evolve to meet these needs?
So do you hear me?
Yes, can hear you now.
Great, and I would also like to say thank you to being here today. It's an honor to celebrate the 100 years anniversary. I think from a sensor and platform point of view, both sensors and platforms has to support the vision of S100, really mapping or understanding the full ocean. And it was so we also, from a sensor point of view, we are moving from we are maintaining safe navigation, but we are also then enabling the main theme here, or a second main theme here, protecting the marine environment. And it requires then sensors that become multifunction. That we, when we are out with a platform and mapping the ocean, we get in the same survey or the same mission, we get seabed data, we get oceanographic data, we get various type of seabed detailed information, biological data, and and as well larger coverage and more detail. So I think that is definitely one development that we'll see, multifunction, multidiscipline data collection. I think the other main thing has been mentioned already as well. That is crowdsourcing and robotics allows for much more data. And I think we are moving into a situation of, as said, from static to dynamic, or from survey to monitoring. Because when we have the ambition of establishing a digital twin of the oceans as challenged by Matthias, it requires repeated or ongoing monitoring of the ocean, and that requires a few technology steps. It requires a lot more sensors that to be installed on vessels, and they being able to crowdsource or contribute data, as well as more cost-effective data collections from robotics. And also, I think key to manage all this data will be then much more efficient data processing. So really data becomes not touched by humans from the sensors into the various data centers or the various clouds that together will provide information to the various users around the world.
Thank you, Bjorn. No, thank you, Bjorn. And Peter, when Ireland set off all those years ago on their hugely ambitious plan to survey the entire sea area of Ireland, a lot of this technology was not available to you. And I know that you did the economic math to balance the benefits. How did you approach it, and taking it forward as you got closer to your goal? I know you had to learn a lot and develop a lot along the way. So how did that fit in with moving towards that completion?
Thank you, David, and happy birthday 100 to everyone, and greetings from Ireland. Yeah, I mean, as an Irishman, I work in rhymes and stories. So the journey, for our listeners to appreciate, the journey Ireland has gone through. You can hear me?
I hear you, can't see you.
The video is on. Hopefully your system will connect with it. But let me talk anyway for the benefit of the listeners. The journey Ireland has gone has been one of a complete transformation. We were not at the races when it came to scientific capabilities with regard to the ocean. a relatively short number of decades ago. We had an 80-year deficit in the infrastructure to take on such an ambitious project. But what we didn't lack was territory. And even though I had completed a PhD in Ireland, it took a postdoc period in the United States to appreciate what became known as the real map of Ireland. During that time, I learned from a member of Congress that Ireland had a very large ocean territory, in fact, 10 times the size of the landmass. Factor that in. So on returning to Ireland, I asked for that map, and there was no such product. And then we visualized, created what became known as the real map of Ireland. Now, this was not a real map. This was an interpretation of JEPCO available information and creative design. But it had a transformational effect. It created something which politicians and policymakers could see, feel, touch, get attached to, and in time come to love. And then we're in a period of time where the oceans and the importance of the oceans to life on Earth are something that has to be nurtured, appreciated, loved for the benefit of mankind and for the existential threats we face. So the ability to show an Irish government a real map of land, not water, and to all the oceanographers, I said, bear with me a moment. We needed to take away the water so that what was a national treasure, a national asset, could be appreciated by people who for 8 centuries had craved ownership, stewardship, and control of land and their futures. Every Irish person understands an acre of measurement because most houses are a half quarter acre sites. So we had over 200 million of those acres underwater. And honestly, it had a transformational effect. And what I'm saying to all the hydrographers out there is that the power of hydrography is that you have the ability and the power to visualize what human eyes cannot see. And that's potentially transformational. And in the decades ahead, particularly this decade, where I recall being with you, David, in 2016 in Monaco at a future of ocean floor mapping. And we boldly set out at that time the idea of mapping all of the ocean's floors. We said we'd need a transformation in observations, and we called for the telecoms industry to open their minds to the idea of transocean telecom cables being instrumented. That's now happening. We listened to the owners and the private companies that had access to huge data assets, but we needed to de-risk making those available to the public. Now we're talking openly of a total open access system. And we will need a transformation in real-time ocean observations from all sources, which have been mentioned already, and including citizen engagement and crowdsourcing and enabling, because that is so important for people to get connected and get to understand and appreciate how important the ocean is to life on Earth, not only to trade, but to actually life on Earth. And a last recollection from 2016's event was, I was saying to hydrographers, please be interested in the most boring parts for you of the seafloor, those mud, apparently featureless areas, because not only in the deep ocean, but in the coast, they're hugely interesting. They're the most underdiscovered and underappreciated. But since that meeting, and in recent times, it has been published very authoritatively that the carbon sequestration potential and reality of those quote unquote boring sea muds are twice as valuable as average terrestrial soils. And that proportion gets much higher in coastal areas. So even the most boring aspects from a hydrographic perspective are enormously valuable and important. And I really believe that in the next decade, we will see an unprecedented advance in our knowledge capture, our ability to map not only hydrographic, bathymetric, but habitat, to observe in real time that can facilitate the prediction that we all need, and then to protect in a manner that is essential for life on Earth.
Thank you. Perfect. We've been working closely with our friends at IALA on both the development of various 100-based product specifications and some of the marine services that support e-navigation. However, we should not forget the human element in all this technological advance. We're fortunate to have a closely aligned approach between IHO and IALA, as this next video will demonstrate.
To facilitate harmonization of the maritime domain. Testament to your success is the fact that many of these standards are now taken for granted by the mariners who have routinely come to expect good quality charts and reliable nautical information wherever they navigate. But therein also lies a challenge, and one which the IHO has ably risen to. I always remember you recalling that we know the surface of the moon and Mars better than we know the seabed. A key success of solving challenges has been through connecting hydrographic professionals through effective worldwide international cooperation and collaboration, particularly through a very active network of regional hydrographic commissions. These, alongside your impressive capacity building, technical cooperation and education programs, provide a truly global network of the sharing of challenges, expertise, and solutions. The IALA Worldwide Academy, through its mission to enlighten, educate, and engage with coastal states in need of assistance, is pleased to participate in this important work as a component of the very effective United Nations delivering as one initiative. The maritime world is changing, and the IHO has never stood still, being ahead of the tide in preparing for emerging trends such as digitalization and automation in our safety critical sector, where the tolerance of incident and accidents is low. A key example of this has been the development of the S100 standard, resulting in a comprehensive range of digital products and services for the hydrographic and maritime navigation sectors. IALA is very proud to be an active contributor to this interesting, important, and innovative work in the development of the complementary S200 series of standards, which are closely related to the IALA domain. A dynamic century of service, development, and innovation leaves the IHO well placed to deal with an exciting future. IALA has been pleased to benefit from your support, expertise, and collaboration as we navigate through our important global missions. Allow me to conclude by sincerely congratulating the International Hydrographic Organization, its member states and team celebrations in reaching this milestone. There is an exciting future ahead as you enter your next century of service, and we in IALA look forward to continuing our voyage with you. Thank you.
We must remember that capacity building and development cannot impact without considerable input and support from our industry partners, particularly when it comes to the smooth introduction of new products. With that in mind, Emma, the IHO and IALA are working on a wide range of new data products under the S100 framework to support efficient and greener shipping. So on which ones should the IHO consider focusing most resources, and would these be the same ones to support things such as mass?
Interesting question. I think in a case of which ones is very difficult to answer, but in terms of any new products which enhance the journey of mass and enhance the journey of getting more information to the mariner, will certainly something that the industry can take into account when they're looking at displaying those products and developing software, hardware, and solutions which get that information to the mariner. So the more products that we can have to test, the sooner the better, basically, so that we can push those solutions out to the market. Will it be the same ones? I think from my perspective, there are a lot of synergies between them. And I think there will be some conflicts also. It very much depends. Do you have a specific product that you'd like me to direct it on, David? Or
well, I was thinking of the change that was potentially going to be needed from the present ENC chart is focused on the human interface.
Yeah.
The modern version is when you're talking about autonomous vessels, you don't need the human interface because it's machine to machine readable. And that seems to be a direct conflict between the two products. Yeah. So how is that going to be resolved, do you see?
I think from our perspective, certainly the kernel, the brain within the systems that we're using, we are developing along the lines of the S100 specifications to be able to make that information available in commercial systems that mariners are buying and will buy in the future. So for us, the development is very much about focusing the products to the mariner in the most efficient way. The chart and the ENCs is still one of the most important products, and we all said the paper chart was going to disappear a long time ago. It is still being used, although it's very digitally focused now. So we have to remind ourselves that although there's these great innovations, the maritime industry, and I'm talking, you know, your average bulk supply vessel, your average tanker, they will take some time to catch up. So we have to bear in mind that, okay, the autonomous shipping and the mass developments are there, but for us supplying our customer base and the wider maritime industry in the next 5 to 10 years, we have to think of what is commercially acceptable. So that will be the conflict, I think.
And I'm wondering actually how this aligns with the national hydrographic perspective, Genevieve, because one way, and obviously the development of the ENCs was driven by what the mariner was used to seeing, and therefore the ENC was developed to look like an old paper chart. In the future, that's not going to be necessarily a driver. It's how it's delivered to the customer, or be it a machine. So how do you think that's going to affect it from your perspective, Genevieve?
So maybe a couple of comments there. I think as we're looking at delivering the data, it can serve both the mass and the human, because in essence, what you're delivering is different layers of data that can then be translated for the user. So if you're on a ship, you could have the ship just getting the data and positioning itself to be able to navigate safely, adjust its speed depending on the currents, etc., to be as effective and efficient as possible in its navigation. What the human user can do is access the data, but choose which layers he or she can be using. So I think the interface may be different, but the back door, the data will be the same coming in. In the recent tests that Canada has done with the S102, for example, we've had pilots using the data and basically deciding how they want to see it. So I think what we need to do is engage the mariners and get them to work with us, as we did with the S102 and with all of the different service providers, the whole chain, but work at the interface. And I think that would be done with the commercial operators to really be able to design how that interface looks like. But the back end, the data will be the same. And what's really extraordinary about this revolution in terms of the data that can be served is once we've got those initial layers of data, you know, bathymetry and so the water levels and the currents and basically the basic data, the aids to navigation, the weather, the ice, well, then you can look at other types of data. Why can't we bring in the data of where the whales are as you're coming in into a Gulf Stream or into an area where you might have whales? So I think the back end piece will be the same, but we need to engage the mariners in designing how they want to view that data.
Add something, David.
Of course.
I think it wasn't so long ago that we all just had a phone which we made a call on, And we didn't know that we could do all the things that we do today on a phone because it wasn't presented to us. The data was all there in the background in various separate pockets, if you like. And I think the same goes for this. I mean, the average mariner or user of all of this data will not know what the possibilities of having all of this data means to them until it's presented to them in such a way that they can enjoy it and make it enhance their safety of passage. So I think what the job of the hydrographic community and the commercial partners will be is to present that data to the users in a way that brings them all on board this journey that we're trying to all achieve.
So you're saying, Emma, that mariners didn't realize they needed a chart until you gave them it, and then they realized,
quite possibly.
So they thought, how did we survive without it? And I see Bjorn has been nodding sagely to that, those comments, so I'm sure he's got something to add.
Yeah, so some aspects, I think, about more information. It's today we can map the seafloor with a resolution of say 1 inch. And it is of course not strictly necessary for safe navigation, but it's an example of much more information available. And I don't think the community at large has really taken this into consideration yet. It is to some degree, it's driven by the naval applications, for instance, for seeing small mine-like objects. But the danger is that it is just put into that pocket or to that application. Because if you have 3 centimeters, for instance, a resolution of the ocean, you understand biology a lot more. And you can do, and it's important for the digital twin of the ocean and the complete sustainable management of the coastal areas with aquaculture, with fishery, with human activity, with maritime transport, and so on, as an example. And I think that was just one example. There's also a multitude of now very accurate data in all kind of domains. And to really take the full potential of this and the full use of this in various industries will pose a challenge to IHO and its member states, because we risk being overrun by private companies, or we risk being kind of pushed by technology by having maybe too archaic thoughts about what data of the ocean should be. So I think with modern sensors, modern data gathering, we are about to see revolutions in the next 10 years. We are making a foundation with S100, but it takes a lot more, I think.
That actually leads me nicely into, so amongst all this, we need to remember that there are a plethora of uses for survey data beyond safety of navigation, and the standardization of better quality data are fundamental to many related activities. So Peter, the broader use of marine geoinformation with the seamless integration between land and sea holds great potential for a new type of ocean science. And do you see this interrelation as overlapping, complementary, or competing for the limited resources that you well know are available?
First of all, there is an absolute massive policy demand for this type of integration. We're not where we were even 5 years ago. The penny has dropped. The climate change reality is there. But what's very encouraging from an oceans perspective, and from my read on policy positions, both in Europe, across the Atlantic, and at a global level with the UN Decade, is that the centrality of the ocean to the climate and the integration of both is accepted. So there will be a societal demand for real-time, fit-for-purpose ability to predict and forecast whatever is relevant to whatever industry, to whatever municipality, region, nation, a part of the world that has interaction with the ocean, and that's enormous. So I think it behoves everyone in the supply side to realize that the future is open access, that the demand is huge from government, that there will be, and I sit on the EU mission board for oceans and water, and this report, the Starfish report as such, is being considered by the Commission, but it hugely advocates for transformational capabilities in protecting the oceans, in carbon neutral businesses for the future, in the contribution the oceans can make to dealing with the carbon and the climate crisis, and the protection requirement and the restoration requirement for the health of the ocean. We want it restored by 2030. And central to that is the creation of a seamless digital ocean, underpinning those service outputs. And it's recognized that a transformation in the observational capacity, in the real-time realm, engaging citizens usually, is part of the pathway forward. And again, working across the Atlantic, in the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance with Canada and the US for over a decade, I can envisage in this decade actual multinational campaigns of integrated mapping and observation of entire ocean spaces, starting in the North Atlantic, spreading the whole Atlantic, and hopefully inspiring a global initiative, not just gathering available information, but plugging all of the necessary gaps. Because how can you predict anything with confidence if you do not start with an accurate map? I know I preach to a church of the converted here, but what I'm telling you is that when the fiscal crisis hit and Ireland was broke, the government of the country, when it was shutting down hospital wards, when it was taking phenomenally difficult social and political decisions, did not stop the seabed survey. It spread out the budget, it reduced it by about 20–25%, but it stuck with it. Now that shows you the transformation that had been achieved in a period of time. And it went from something that was quote unquote expensive to something that it was immensely proud of as an expression of a commitment to the long term and an appreciation of being an island nation. Well, we are a water planet. We are all in the ocean together. So I think I'm extremely confident that there's a huge demand for what is produced, but it will have to be, I think we have to think entirely differently with a very open mind to totally integrated systems, facilitating the restoration of the oceans and facilitating all of the industries and all of the natural heritage and cultural aspects that need to be protected to ensure that it is able to sustain human life.
Brilliant. Bjorn, I do have a question, but first, Genevieve, I think Peter has articulated some enormous challenges for you as a national hydrographer to manage this almost overwhelming challenge. And with Canada having a massive sea area for which you're responsible, how are you going to approach this challenge?
So I think you're correct. We do have a massive challenge, not only with the geography and the area that we need to cover. Part of it is in the Arctic, which is in its own way a challenge, because you can only be there part of the year, survey part of the year. And a lot of our data holdings are still not in a digital format. So massive challenges, which I'm sure other countries around the world share as well. I think I agree with Peter that there's a huge demand and that there's a need. I did allude to the fact that that does mean gathering data in areas that we haven't gathered data yet. The approach that we've been taking has been in, I guess, project by project basis, which is where there are specific areas where we can go in and demonstrate the value of it. And so, for example, I know last year we were able to use some of our data to search for ghost gear and really make that that search much more efficient and be able to start cleaning up the ocean in those areas where ghost gear was present. So I think that's part of it. The other part, I think, is going and inviting collaboration, those who are collecting data. to contribute that data to the IHO database in Boulder, that we also look at new ways of collecting data through the use of AUVs, through the use of community-based hydrography. We have done some projects in the Arctic to demonstrate the value of that, where communities can collect data and reuse it themselves. We hope to build on those to raise that awareness. So we're in the process of doing that. And I think that's the only way. Now that leads to one other challenge, which I didn't raise before, which is the regulatory context. And how do you make sure that, and Peter talked about fit for purpose, which I absolutely agree with. So we need to understand the value of the data that's being collected by different groups and find a way to really make sure that what is authoritative for navigation is well understood versus what is fit for other uses. And that's part of the challenges that we will collectively face globally.
Excellent. So Peter, how can equipment manufacturers help to increase the effectiveness of systems and maximize the limited resources to gather the multiple data that's so clearly needed?
First of all, I'll go back to the use of the word limited. I think we're entering an era where there will be a transformation in the political and societal appreciation of the value of having that fit for purpose forecasting, predicting capability and what needs to be under it. And I envisage increased public investment. I envisage opportunities for citizen and crowdsourcing engagement. I envisage opportunities for financial institutions and an appreciation of a circular economy and the value of natural capital systems and new investment philosophies, patient and longer term investment that is pointed at the ocean. And among the things that will need to be done is to create that digital ocean. So philanthropy, direct and multiple scales of new investment from the capital world, and indeed a transformation in national budget accounting, which will not just look at GDP, not just look at growth, but look at sustainability, livability, survivability on the planet, and the services that are coming from those parts of this planet that are the least mapped, the least observed, the least understood. And it's not for the sake of, if you like, those of us in a community of data gatherers or scientists or hydrographers or whatever, to actually tell the story why it is important for every government, every jurisdiction, and every human on the planet. It's a process that will have an opportunity for many, many to be part of. But I do not mean in any way to convey the message that it's on the shoulders of hydrographers to plug this gap or private survey companies to plug this gap. I'm saying the plugging of this gap will have to take a multinational, institutional, government, and every player opportunity. But there's room for everybody in this.
David, if I could add
yes, certainly, and then I want to come to Bjorn.
Okay, I just wanted to say the other thing that we did, I should have mentioned, is that we took the bold move last year through a pilot of releasing all of our bathymetric data at the 10-meter resolution as non-navigational data. And it's available and folks can go in and look at it and you can see all the gaps then. But you see there, first of all, folks can see what's there, but they can see also what's missing. And then that's an invitation for folks to say, well, here's where I would need data. How come we don't have better data there? Anyways.
Well, Bjorn, I can see that this is going to create a huge challenge for equipment manufacturers as well. How do you think that they're going to address it and make things, the equipment, affordable for a wider use rather than just the haves? It needs to be available for the have-nots as well.
I think we in technology now there are a lot of visions to really make things different. Given there's a market, we will. I think there are a lot of visions. We talk about multidiscipline of the oceans. There are a lot of visions for the tech of the future that will enable continuous monitoring. I mean, for instance, now with low orbit satellites coming, and with solar energy, renewable type of principles, we can envision having an unmanned surface vehicle continuously surveying the world and continuously doing all necessary information processing on board for hydrographic purposes, for biomass, fishery quota setting, for oceanographic purposes, and for other purposes, and sending that data almost real time to a national or international data center. I think that technology visions are quite clear and quite well spelled out, and and I think as shown through history, when demand comes, industry will make it happen.
I just want to add, David, if I may, I'm not saying that equipment manufacturers have an easy job here, but far from it. But I think two of the challenges of connectivity is one, but from having looked at both sides of the coin in my career so far, some of the major challenges, I think, which go above and beyond those that the equipment manufacturers have, are the political and bilateral sensitivities in the hydrographic world, and marrying those up with the connectivity challenges and what equipment manufacturers can offer at different speeds and different restrictions, I think will be one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, I to be honest, I think there are clearer vision on the technology dimension than on the regulatory and the business ecosystem and how to organize this transnational. That might be because I'm more into the technology, so that might be my knowledge there is kind of much more to the point, but it's a statement.
Peter, so you're desperate to.
No, just to add to the point, Bjorn, I mean, another aspect of the Mission Starfish report was the need to significantly up our game on ocean governance at every level. And that's very central to being able to make sure that nobody is left behind and that somebody is looking out for the planetary zones that are outside of national jurisdiction with a very different eye. And I think that it's all integrated, all the different, we call it Starfish, we have 5 different arms, and all of them are integrated for this future vision of transformation and restoration. But at the heart of it, from a perspective of a scientist, the data systems and streams to underpin the service outputs and capabilities to transform them is the decade we're entering into. And when you look at the ocean decade at the UN level, when you look at the strides that the mission concept in Europe, 10 years ago, could you have envisaged that one of 5 priorities for a mission in Europe would have been the oceans and water? And we're now at a point where we're introducing the term hydrosphere to get people back to the realization that, you know, life on Earth depends on water. 97% of the water on this planet is in the ocean, yet it's linked to every other element of water, wherever it is on the planet, whatever country, groundwater, in the atmosphere, lakes, streams, you name it. But that systematic connectivity is vital to getting humans connected with what is vital for their survival and well-being.
Thank you, Peter. And this was not a setup, but you perfectly led into the next video, because the Oceanographic Commission, International Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, our close partner on a number of programs, has been leading the preparations for and managing the UN Decade for Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And we'll now hear how these threads come together in these next 2 videos.
Your Excellencies, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Secretary General Matthias Jonas, it's a real honor for me as chairperson of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO to join you today in the celebrations of the first 100 years of the International Hydrographic Organization. Allow me also to convey the greetings of all our constituency, 150 member states. We share one ocean, we share the same passion, and we share the same commitment to ocean matters. And if you allow me, I would like to quote one of IHO's publication M2. Without hydrography, no ship sails safely, no port is built, no coastal infrastructure is developed, no marine environmental plan is implemented, no coast or island is defended, no marine rescue is attempted, no inundation model is developed, no maritime boundary is delimited or enforced. And allow me to add, no marine scientific research, no ocean services, no capacity development can be conducted. We very much look forward to continue working hand in hand with our sister organization and take advantage of the opportunities that the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development will provide us to deliver as one and to achieve the ocean we need for the future we want. Congratulations, happy birthday, and thank you very much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary General Matis Jonas, warm-hearted congratulations on the 100 years anniversary to the International Hydrographic Organization. Please accept them from the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, following the warm congratulations of the IOC Chair, Captain Troisi. We are really sister organizations, and you are the elder sister. Your past is glorious, and indeed, it is with your help that the navigation is now safer, that we all know the system of coordinates for our planet, of which 70% is the ocean, so we can really navigate there. But of course, and this is reflected in our current discussions with the Secretary General, we need to move forward to a new level of the work of oceanography, hydrography. And I would actually make no big borderline between them, because hydrography is also measuring not only the depths, not only charting the ocean, but this is a means of observing the ocean that should be really complementary to what, for example, the Global Ocean Observing System is doing. And yes, we are thinking about this. And in the course of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, I think we are going to achieve some harmony in this. Not only we are going to fulfill the 100 years, even more, dream of general bathymetric chart of the world, of the ocean, to complete a map of high resolution ocean depths. We also think that we will now be able to move towards observing the ocean, presenting the ocean digitally in a systematic and interoperable way. And IHO is a standard setting organization, so is IOC. Our standards should really merge. And this should lead to the new science, to the new way of managing the ocean, which is now, I think, mainstream. So the future of our organizations is to contribute to managing the ocean sustainably, the ocean spaces and even the resources. And this will be a major contribution to the agenda of sustainable development, which basically means that we would like to live decently, and we would like not to borrow from the future that capacity to live decently and leave that future to our successors. So let me only wish you another 100 years of very fruitful and successful work, and very intensive work, because what we really do is we run this 100 years marathon in the pace of sprint. Once again, happy 21st of June. Congratulations, IHO, on behalf of IOC, and have a good celebration. Thank you for your attention.
Well, that's a wonderful message from the Executive Secretary at the IOC. I've been just joined by the Secretary General, Dr. Matthias Jonas, and specially by Ambassador Peter Thompson. But I'm going to go around and in turn, you'll get the same question. So unfortunately, the first person will have less time to think about it than the others. But noting the comments made by the Executive Secretary about the ocean decade and the future, Genevieve, what do you see that the hydrographic offices can, or more importantly, should contribute to ensure the success and sustainable success into the future, and not just go 2030, oh, job done, but 2040, 2050, and so on. So what do you see that the keys for the hydrographic offices?
I think maybe two things. One of them is data, and continuing to collect and to contribute and to understand how our data is used within our national waters, but also internationally. I also think through the digital transformation that we'll be going through and the implementation of S100, there's opportunities to fully participate as ocean scientists and engineers. And so I think hydrographic offices should embrace the opportunity to be part of that broader ocean community. Seabed 2030 is a key project to which we can all contribute, but I also think that there are now, through a number of initiatives, opportunities to contribute. So I think that's where hydrographic organizations should be seeking to participate. And
beyond same perspective or question to you, what can equipment manufacturers do to progress this?
Well, what struck me when I heard Vladimir talking was the fact that he said that IOC and IHO standards will merge, and that IOC and IHO will work to make that happen. I think that kind of builds the foundation for us as a equipment manufacturer to make multifunction systems, multifunction sensors, and platforms that can kind of continuously monitor the whole ocean. So to me, it seems to be coming together, and I think IOC is huge success in, for instance, in many areas, but not also for having sustainable fishing quotas around the world, and IHO huge success in safe navigation. So we are set up for huge ocean successes for the future, I would say.
And Emma, the shipping industry has a part to play. What part do you think they can contribute?
For the shipping industry, the best part that they can do right now is to be more open, I think, in terms of helping the initiative to collect the data. I think a lot of them probably do not realize that this initiative is here. So being able to add to the data in the background for us to promulgate in a different way would be very useful. And also to open up in terms of how they perhaps are able to deal with some of the hydrographic community. Some of the bigger shipping companies becoming more industrial partners, more involved in some of the workshops, the groups, the development of some of the technologies that are available. I think shipping companies are eager to do this, and some of them would be more eager to do it in return, because they're all commercially minded, in return for data that will help their business. There's always that commercial driver from their side of things. One example we had was someone, a shipping company, wanting to contribute to some form of crowdsourcing or some kind of charts that they could develop. They wouldn't be necessarily official, but having some kind of data on a layer which they could use in return for a discount on their AVCS data. So they've got that, they've always got that in mind. So there are those initiatives, but that's obviously has bilateral implications and political implications on top of that. But they're there, they're willing to contribute, but it's a long way from bringing the whole group of us together, I think.
And Peter, one of the key elements of the decade is open data. And I know that Ireland was a champion of that and is always held up in meetings at the IHO as Ireland did it, that's the way to do it. Come on, everybody, follow it. But what else do you see that can be done to advance towards the ultimate goal?
Yeah, you bring back a dark memory for me. I well remember when the Troika were in town, their agents were sent to, I think, try to take apart the seabed survey, and particularly to start a policy of charging for the data, but we resisted that. No, the key thing is it's multilateral. It's multilateralism. There's a huge place for international scientific diplomacy going forward in the next decade. The lift, everybody is converging. The UN decade, the Mission Starfish report in Europe, the agenda of the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance from pole to pole, and all of the contributions I'm hearing is that collective ability to be able to get the job done, to meet the challenge of climate change, to provide society with the services it requires to not only address the climate challenge, but to redress and to restore the oceans to a healthy state. And I think the philosophy of being open to playing one's part, to contributing to it, to collectively raising the tide, and to an ocean swell of data momentum and services delivery. And I think there's a very great commercial and societal opportunity in this endeavor in the decade ahead.
Thank you, Peter. Ambassador, I hope, one, this is working, and two, I hope that the comments that you've heard from our four guests have encouraged you that there is hope and that we are going to make progress towards what we really need to do.
Definitely. Is this working?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Should I just speak loudly?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, very good. Well, it's certainly no loss of hope anywhere should ever be allowed. And I say that as a grandfather to 4 beautiful grandchildren, there's no way we're giving up hope on this. Are we faced with an existential challenge in the shape of climate change and the ocean's decline? Yes, 100%. We're facing challenges like never before in human history. But what has got us from the caveman days to the space station days? It's 2 things. One is the human ability to share. That's the basis of civilization and society. And secondly, our ability to innovate. And that's what's taken us from stone tools to space rockets. So why at the time of our greatest crisis probably for humanity, would we not be exercising those 2 abilities of sharing and innovating to the very best of our abilities? So transfer that across to the ocean, and the member states of the United Nations in their wisdom have declared this UN decade of ocean science. Why do we need that? Because up to 80% of the ocean is unknown to science, and that includes the surveying of the seafloor. But in this decade, we're going to get there, and we're going to get the 100%. And we need that 100% because we've got some very, very important decisions to make about our relationship with the planet. So the sort of sharing that you heard today when Vladimir Rabanen was speaking, and what we were discussing earlier today up on the roof of the IHO about the IHO's place in broadening hydrography to be more than just sort of measuring the depth and width of channels and seafloors and so on, into measuring the ocean and what's going on in the ocean. We've got all those ships out there doing all that measuring. All those drones out there, they should be doing the most that they can to meet this massive challenge that we're facing. So I'm really encouraged by what I've heard today from this panel and all that I heard upstairs in our discussions today about breaking down those silos. And that includes breaking down the silos that have maybe kept hydrography in a certain box over the last 100 years, but the next 100 years is going to be very different, I believe, for hydrography. Change is a constant. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I would like to thank our 3 remote guests, Genevieve Béchard, Bjorn Jalving, and Peter Heffernan, for their wide-ranging and enlightening comments. Your participation has thrown a light on what awaits the organization as it steps into its next century. Exciting and challenging times await those willing, enthusiastic, and forward-thinking enough to take up the challenge. So thank you. And whilst Emma is staying with us, I would like to welcome the Secretary General. Known to many of you already, Dr. Mateusz Jonas, the first elected Secretary General of the IHO in 2017. He had a demanding term in office after taking forward the development of S100, e-navigation, modernizing communications, outreach, and involvement in the new decade were not challenging enough. He's had to do much of it against the background of a global pandemic and significantly reduced interaction. So welcome, Secretary General, and I'll be asking you to provide comment and context to the remaining 3 videos messages we have received to mark this important anniversary. And of course, Emma and Ambassador, I'm hoping you will be willing to contribute your perspective. So over to you, Secretary General.
Yeah, thank you. What to start? The normal answer should be I love challenges, and the COVID came to the right time. But that would not be the full truth. I could happily abstain of that challenge, of course. What I learned from today is that we really have a lot of allies, and the whole setting of the marine-related organizations received a lot of support, congrats, and what we in particular address today is the way into the future, that we open up, that we say we are professionals in measurement, we are the engineers of the seas, we can deliver facts and information about the whole setting of the seafloor and the water column. We should be more open in the future because the contribution, the potential is enormous. So I don't know how this relates to the next video precisely. I don't know which one is the next. Maybe before it starts.
We're CRM, who are the equipment partners for us.
Yeah, maybe one more word then to the greater image. So in my speech this morning, I said something like, at the time this organization was founded, so there were countries who understood that they, even if they are not necessarily friends, they understand they had to collaborate together for the sake of those are at sea. And we, in a way, in the same situation, we know there are tensions in the world and there are different views how societies should be organized. And we will probably not find a totally common view how societies should be constructed. But on the baseline, on the technical level we are working, we should agree that we have to collaborate for the sake of all humanity. So that's a challenge on the next level of the safety of navigation, but it remains to the same principle as the founders of this organization have established.
Yes.
In this year, 2021, CIRM and its membership are honoured to be able to send this message as part of World Hydrography Day and the IHO's 100th anniversary. Thank you for the opportunity to join with you in this important day celebrating hydrography worldwide. In April 2004, CIRM made a proposal to Vice Admiral Moratos of the International Hydrographic Bureau that a more formalized relationship should be established between each of us. This initiative was warmly welcomed, and I'm happy to say that thereafter and ever since, both organizations have enjoyed a very full and productive working relationship. As companies that manufacture, supply, and service electronic systems supporting ship navigation, CIRM members are at the core of what matters in your work at the IHO. There have been so many topics over the years that have formed the basis of mutual dialogue, examination, study, and analysis. The development and introduction of electronic chart systems to the shipping industry, followed by ECDIS. The ongoing monitoring of ECDIS issues, including updating shipboard systems when IHO's ECDIS standards are revised. The upcoming transition from S57 to S100 based ECDIS and the timelines to finalize this work. Aspects related to the IMO, IHO harmonization group on data modeling, and so many more. Most recently, CIRM held a workshop on S100 and the future of ECDIS, where IHO representatives were valuable contributors. This ongoing collaboration between CIRM, the IHO, and others is producing wide-ranging and comprehensive discussions. Our two organizations are keen to continue this relationship, essential work from both sides that ensures the safest conditions for those at sea. World Hydrography Day has always been an important event in our industry calendar. It marks the importance of the work of all hydrographers, their knowledge contributing to the safest conditions for our seafarers worldwide. It is a great pleasure for us to take part in celebrations today, and CIRM sends the International Hydrographic Office most sincere congratulations on the occasion of its 100th anniversary. Thank you, and our best wishes to you all.
Am I? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, CIM, for this statement and your sincere congratulations. Indeed, I recall a statement made at the IMO 15 or 20 years ago. We had a discussion about electronic charts, and one of the national representatives raised his card to make a comment, and he said, "You should know what, I'm a mariner, and I learned to rely at sea only on two things. One is God, and the second is charts of British Admiralty." That's what he was saying, and that was in paper, and that was before all those digital development has started. So, and that exactly marks how much it has changed. So we are twins, if you want, or we are two sides of one coin. Hydrographic services, who deliver the information, who do the gathering and the processing of the information, and industry is providing the front end for those who are at sea. So we are dependent from each other, so we cannot live without. And there is a very good understanding of the situation on both sides. That did some time before it developed to a point where we are. So today we understand one provides the other, and that's exactly what CIM is helping us to address in our relation to OEM shipbuilding industry.
Absolutely. And now we have a message from the Secretary General of the International Seabed Authority, for whom we've started to be working very closely in the last few years.
Greetings from Jamaica on this World Hydrography Day 2021. Many congratulations also to the International Hydrographic Organization on achieving its 100th anniversary. Hydrography and the measurement of the depth and shape of the seafloor were recognized since the London Conference of 1919 as fundamental to maritime safety and navigation. Increasingly, it is recognized as fundamental to all aspects of the sustainable use of the world's seas and oceans. Advances in physical science and marine technology have only increased the value of hydrography to sustainable management of the ocean. On behalf of the International Seabed Authority, I had the honor to participate in the first assembly of IHO in 2017 and to sign an agreement of cooperation between ISA and IHO. Since then, our cooperation has grown stronger with each passing year. This is not surprising, as both IHO and ISA have a shared mandate and shared commitment to increase scientific understanding of the ocean and to make ocean data publicly available. Both organizations also share a commitment to the goal of fully mapping the ocean by 2030. Thanks to the work carried out by IHO, and in particular its approach to open and inclusive cooperation with other organizations and with industry, the portion of the seafloor that has been mapped has already increased from 15% in 2017 to 20% in 2020. The authority is pleased to contribute to these efforts. High-resolution bathymetric data is essential to understand the geology of the seafloor. Since 2018, we have been working closely with IHO and our deep-sea exploration contractors to develop the necessary protocols to standardize and exchange high-resolution bathymetric data collected by contractors with IHO as a contribution towards the Seabed 2030 project. Contractors recognize the importance of this initiative and have committed to work closely with ISA to support the action of IHO in advancing the global mapping of the international seabed area. I'm pleased to inform you that recently the first datasets under this program were transferred to IHO. We look forward to further developing this partnership and supporting the work of IHO, as well as developing further cooperative programs, particularly in the field of marine technology. Congratulations to IHO and all the best for the next 100 years.
Yeah, well, my sincere thanks to Jamaica. I can only confirm what Michael Lodge has just pointed out, and it's true. We now received a comprehensive data sets of the deep sea from three of the contractors, from a European consortium led by Poland, from Germany, and from Belgium, and that is substantial coverage in the deep sea, and all of us who know on the difficulties of hydrography is that the deep sea in particular is the area we have only sparse coverage with data, and this sort of contribution is more than welcome. It really opens our eyes on an area we do not know very much so far. And the alliance we were building up with ISA is exactly this sort of collaboration we need across the domains, across the disciplines, and with no mental barriers. And Peter, has intimate knowledge about this organization, so I'm pleased if he would add his comment.
Well, thanks very much. Yeah, I was president of the council of the ISA, and was also president of the assembly in another year. So I'm really happy to see this message from the Secretary General of ISA today. And as I was saying in my remarks this morning, there are no silos in this ocean work that we have ahead of us. We're all in this together. Whether it's the Seabed Authority, whether it's WMO or IHO or IOC UNESCO, or indeed the IMO, the international family has to rise to the challenge which we are facing. And I'm very glad to see this sort of cooperation which is now becoming apparent. Thank you.
And we move now to our last video. And this is a video from probably our oldest partner. And that started back just after the tragic event of the SS Titanic, and the WMO and the Archo have been working together initially on maritime safety information, but more latterly on capacity building and working in the coastal zone area. So a message from the Secretary General of the WMO.
Your Excellencies, His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, the Secretary General of the International Hydrographic Organization, UN Special Envoy for Ocean, Ambassador Peter Thompson, distinguished guests and all participants. Greetings from the World Meteorological Organization in Geneva. First of all, oceans are a very important part of our mandate as WMO. We have stored more than 90% of the extra heat that we have produced to the planet to oceans, and we have seen this warming of the oceans, and which has also been contributing to the sea level rise. Oceans are also serving as a sink of carbon dioxide. About 1/4 of the carbon dioxide that we have produced to the system has been taken by the oceans, and this has led also to the acidification, which is a fairly dramatic thing. And finally, from our perspective, since 2/3 of the planet is covered with ocean, the observing systems in the oceans, they're critical for our business once we talk about weather forecasting, Earth system forecasting, and also when we talk about climate science. So therefore, the cooperation between WMO and IHO is very critical and important for us. I'm very honored to speak for this very special occasion celebrating the centenary of the International Hydrographic Organization, which also coincides with the World Hydrography Day of 2021. The IHO has always been an important and steadfast partner to the WMO, collaborating in mutual areas of interest, namely the use of ocean data for maritime and coastal safety. Indeed, the collaboration between the hydrographic and meteorological communities dates to more than a century ago. With the first Safety of the Life at Sea SOLAS Convention in 1914. As you are aware, the SOLAS Convention was established in response to the terrible tragic sinking of the Titanic. The SOLAS uses maritime safety information covering both navigational warnings and meteorological forecasts and warnings to ensure the safety of life at sea. In supporting the SOLAS, both the IHO Worldwide Navigational Warning Service and the WMO Worldwide Met Ocean Information and Warning Service provide the International Maritime Organization as a global maritime distress and safety system, GMDSS, terrible acronym, with regular warnings and information used for mariners at the sea. The cooperation between the IHO NAV areas and the WMO Met areas is essential to this effective service, with messages that are easily understood by maritime customers. The WMO and IHO also have common interests in reducing the risk of disasters in coastal areas within the framework of Sendai. The WMO Earth System approach to enhance services to meet societal needs requires high-resolution bathymetric data for coastal zones. With more precise depth data, WMO global data processing and forecasting systems can provide better products to mitigate the impacts of coastal inundation, which includes storm surges and tsunamis, for example. The initiatives of IHO to provide a complete picture of the ocean floor provide vital data for the WMO, and we highly appreciate your efforts. Climate and climate change is on top of the global agenda, especially with the focus on impacts to coastal, least developed countries and small island and developing states. WMO, together with IHO and other international partners, have also been working together in capacity development activities in these areas while supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For more than 100 years, since at least 1914, the close cooperation between meteorological and hydrographic communities has led to our special partnership. The cornerstones and common goals between WMO and IHO remain the same: safety of life at the sea and along the coast, providing services for societal needs in decision making. I would like to reiterate my congratulations for bringing us together and continued success for further endeavors between WMO and IHO. I wish you a wonderful celebration in Monaco today, and I would love to be there physically, but hopefully that's possible in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah, you see that we start preparations here and we are close to finish this session. Maybe a very last word. It's hard for me to add something to the words of the Secretary General of the WMO, because he pointed to all the relevant items. where there are many similarities. They work with a lot of data. They get a high number of attention. There's a high need for both sort of data, hydrographic and meteorologic data. I think the challenge for us in the future is to merge this information more holistically as we did in the past. And there is a task for us in technical standardization. And that brings us again back to one of the basic duties of the IHO as technical organization, to enable the gathering, the processing, and the joint provision of data in a overarching model. The newest word for that is a digital twin of reality, and I think Björn has alluded to that as well. So that should be our goal, our aspiration, and WMO is one of the counting partners for that.
So Genevieve, Peter, Bjorn, Emma, Ambassador Thompson, thank you very much for joining us. But finally, it would not be a complete birthday without a cake and a celebratory drink. So thank you for staying with us. And here's to the next 100 years. And goodbye from Monaco.